I think we can all agree that Star Wars has its share of confusing moments on screen, such as how Natalie Portman's Padme Amidala falls in love with a whiny little... But anyway, that's not the point of this list. This list is about the scenes we didn't see. I'm Sean Ferrick, and I'm here for What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 deleted Star Wars scenes that explain confusing moments. Number 10. Where did Greedo come from? The Phantom Menace. Responsible for cultivating the biggest debate in the entire Star Wars universe, Greedo was among one of the first characters given a name in the original trilogy, and was also one of the first to be fried. Whether you're on the side of Team Han or Team Greedo in this race to the trigger, there's no denying the impact this character had on the fanbase, even if his screen time did only amount to around 2 minutes. But besides the fact that he's one of Jabba the Hutt's hired hands and has no love for the lovable Han Solo, not much is known about Greedo. Whilst he is never mentioned again in the original trilogy, George Lucas did go back and address the character in one of the Phantom Menace's deleted scenes. The scene opens with Anakin and a young alien boy fighting. Qui-Gon comes along and breaks up the scuffle, telling Anakin that he must learn to live with others having their own opinions. The two boys disperse, and the alien boy's mother calls him Greedo. Not only does this scene give the audience a little bit more of an insight into Anakin's inner anger, something badly missing from the Phantom Menace, and throw in some extra Qui-Gon Jinn into the mix, but it also just adds that extra layer of depth to Greedo's origin story. Number 9. What happened to Lobot? The Empire Strikes Back. Lobot is introduced as being Lando Calrissian's mysterious right-hand man atop Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back, following around in almost every scene and eventually helping put his escape plan into full effect. From his silent demeanour to his huge headphone-like accessory, Lobot was a character that had viewers engaged whenever he popped up. Everything from his origin, role, loyalties and fate were initially left up in the air by Lucas. However, he did go back and provide an answer to one of those questions in one of the film's deleted scenes. Having initiated Lando's escape plan, Lobot is seen ducking and weaving from Vader's garrison as stormtroopers. Unfortunately for the Bespin native, the scene comes to an end with him turning a corner, being discovered by some troopers, and then being hauled off for the remainder of the film. Audience had seen enough in the first two Star Wars films to know that being taken into Imperial captivity was not the best fate in the galaxy, but at least this scene shows Lobot's capture, giving Lando, Leia, and Chewbacca a heads up. Number 8. How did Luke react to Han's death? The Last Jedi. Luke and Han go on an extraordinary journey throughout the original trilogy, growing from a naive farm boy and morally grey rogue to two close heroes of the galaxy. Their initially contrasting personalities end up aligning into one of the most wholesome relationships in the franchise, making it all the more sad that audiences never got one last scene of the pair in any of the Disney trio of films. In fact, Han's tragic death at the hands of his own son was not only helped in part by Luke's failure as a Grand Master to Ben Solo, but was pretty quickly brushed aside throughout most of The Last Jedi. Leia could sense Han's death as it happened, so the effect such an event would have had on someone as in tune with the Force as Luke would have been, something truly to behold. Whilst audiences don't get to see it as it happens, there is a beautiful cutscene in The Last Jedi where the former Grand Master retreats into his tent and is momentarily broken by his friend's death. So many emotions seem to be rushing through to him, from the failure to guide his nephew to the loss of someone so close to him, and Mark Hamill sells it wonderfully. Number 7. Leia explains Han's freezing and Lando's loyalties to Luke. The Empire Strikes Back. Lando Calrissian's betrayal of Han, Leia, Chewie and C-3PO in The Empire Strikes Back remains one of the biggest backstabs in cinema history and perfectly illustrates the somber helplessness feel conveyed throughout the entire film. Lando doesn't stay a baddie for long, however, and goes some way in redeeming himself by helping the rebels escape after Han Solo's carbon freezing, even risking life and limb to go back and pick up Luke after his duel with Vader. We next pick up with the gang at the start of episode 6, where Luke has supposedly been properly introduced to Lando, told of Han's situation, been able to locate where exactly he's been taken, and formulated a plan on how to get him back. Whilst it's not a stretch for audiences to imagine all of this being explained to Luke in between the two films, George Lucas did actually take the time to shoot a whole scene of Leia explaining everything to the wounded Jedi. The princess explains that Han had been frozen and that Lando put a tracker on Boba Fett's Slave 1 ship, giving the audience the perfect reasoning as to why everyone was all pally-pally in Return of the Jedi. Number 6. What happened to crashed pod racers? The Phantom Menace. There's no denying that one of Star Wars' greatest moments is the Boonta Eve classic pod race from The Phantom Menace. Everything from the parade of flags to the oppressive practical spectator set, to the variety in noises from each and every pod helps to ramp up the tension prior to the race, and the adrenaline pumping sequences once things get underway do a great job in keeping everything enthralling. Audiences are told a lot about the dangers of pod racing throughout the movie, with Anakin Skywalker supposedly the only human in the galaxy with the level of reflexes needed to compete in such an event. And throughout the race, the dangers are indeed shown firsthand, with Anakin having to think fast in his seat on more than one occasion, and every racer bar Skywalker spinning off and crashing into the Tatooine sands. Whilst it may be easy to think of these racers as all done for, a deleted scene from the film shows a small carrier flying over to crash ships and dispensing a few repair droids to fan the flames and make whatever fixes they can to the damaged pods, giving us hope that a few pod racers actually got out of there with most of their limbs. Number 5. Did Luke see the Tante 4 storming? A New Hope. From the Tante 4 pursuit, Vader's entrance and Luke Skywalker staring off into the sunset, A New Hope has so many iconic and legendary shots in its just opening 20 minutes or so. However, matching up where everyone is at any given time can be a little hard to pin down. Audiences are shown the scale and scope of the film's opening space battle, with huge laser shots, ships capable of devouring other spacecrafts, and escape pods being jettisoned off into the planet's atmosphere. One of Lucas's deleted scenes from A New Hope features Luke charging something up at one of Tatooine's power towers, when he does indeed see the space battle unfolding in the skies above. The green bolts of the Empire Star Destroyer and the red of the Tante 4 are both present, doing a nice job in tying the two storylines together a little bit earlier than most fans are used to. Luke's awe and wonder at the battle over his head in these deleted scenes goes a long way in answering questions about why the young farm boy was so obsessed with joining the Academy, all things spacecraft, and eventually getting himself off the rock of Tatooine. Number 4. Why did Qui-Gon not notice Maul's probes? The Phantom Menace. Hunting down Queen Amidala of the Naboo in the sands of Tatooine, Darth Maul is shown setting up a series of probe droids in order to go to the nearby town and locate either her or the Jedi Knights protecting her. For the remainder of the scenes on the desert planet, these probes are seen buzzing around and getting pretty up close to each and every one of the main characters, presumably feeding all of that information back to their Sith Lord owner in the process. One question most Star Wars fans have wondered about why none of the Tatooine residents or the Force-sensitive Jedi ever even mention it to them. One deleted scene from the film, however, does show Anakin and Qui-Gon Jinn on their way to the Naboo spacecraft, where the Jedi Master suddenly lashes out and destroys one of the probes stalking up behind them. Qui-Gon remarks that he's never seen a probe like this one before, and the two of them begin running off toward the horizon. This scene also helps to provide some context around why exactly audiences see Anakin and Qui-Gon running toward the spaceships before Maul attacks them. Number 3. Did Dooku and Anakin meet before dueling? Attack of the Clones. Following on from a mysterious and enthralling villain such as Darth Maul would be a daunting task for most characters. Boy, was Count Dooku worth watching Attack of the Clones for. Christopher Lee's character, despite being surrounded by a bunch of CG'd character for most of the film, absolutely oozes the charm and mysterious tone of the movie, and he proves himself to be a formidable foe for the Jedi to face off against. His standoff against Anakin in the finale is one of the standout moments of the film, with the cool experience of the Count acting as a nice contradiction to the brash recklessness of Anakin's youth. When the lights go out in the chamber, Dooku's red lightsaber begins to foreshadow the young Jedi's fate, casting a red shimmer over his face as the two duel for extra points. Plenty have speculated, given Dooku's close connection with Qui-Gon Jinn, over how much the Count knew of Anakin by the time Attack of the Clones rolled around, and whether the two had even met before their duel. In one deleted scene from the film, Anakin and Padme Amidala are shown being brought in front of Dooku following their capture on Geonosis. While Skywalker and the Count don't exchange any words, Dooku does float the idea of Padme using her sway in Naboo to join his separatist coalition. Number 2. What were the rebels doing during Palpatine's rise? Revenge of the Sith. Chancellor Palpatine's sinister plan to eliminate the Jedi Order and bring in a new galactic empire as a replacement to the Old Republic was cunning, calculated, and conducted with an unnerving level of brilliance. Fans of the series might have been too preoccupied with the action that was beginning to ramp up at the time, but the seeds for the Rebel Alliance were also already being sown in the background, however. In a series of deleted scenes, George Lucas attempts to answer some of the questions fans have surrounding the rise of the Emperor, namely why no one seemingly stood in his way besides a couple of Jedi Masters. These scenes depict the likes of Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and Padme Amidala discussing the political consequences for some of the film's biggest moments, and see most of the senators present start to make the preparations for an alliance against the Chancellor and build for the preservation of the Republic. Whilst it's clear that any of these scenes would have felt shoehorned into the film, they do help cast an extra light in showing that there was some resistance to the Emperor's rise to power. Number 1. How close were Luke and Biggs? A New Hope. Biggs Darklighter might just be the most mysterious character in all of Star Wars history. A final cut of A New Hope shows him to be one of the Rebel Alliance's most capable pilots, and he embraces Luke Skywalker as an old friend when the two are reunited on the eve of the Death Star attack on Yavin 4. It's revealed that the two of them do indeed have a long history of friendship, and that their embracing on Yavin was intended to be much more meaningful than what the final cut offered. One of Lucas's deleted scenes from the film shows Luke and Biggs having a final meeting together, sharing drinks and stories about their future paths. There's a real openness between the pair, sharing their affections for each other and playfully talking about old times with a nice amount of nostalgia in their voices. This deleted scene not only makes Luke look even more like a warm and friendly hero, but it develops a relationship that's become famous for being seemingly underdeveloped by the Star Wars universe before. It also answers the question of why Luke looked genuinely affected by Biggs' death at the hands of Darth Vader before his trench run. And that's everything for our list today, guys. If you reckon there's any other crucial deleted scenes out there that we've failed to mention, please drop it into the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and remember that you can catch us over on Twitter at WhatCultureStarWars. Remember that you can catch myself at Sean Ferrick as well. Whatever you do, look after yourselves, look after your friends and family, and if you see an old friend of yours going up against Darth Vader, maybe give him a hand, yeah? May the Force be with you, and you're all legends.